Hello folks, Y Guy here again. Welcome to my home on this very beautiful spring afternoon. The name of this video is called The Y Guy Introduces the Real Name for Your Flesh. Yours and mine, okay? Did you know that your flesh has a name? Well, sort of. It sort of does. You know, I'm not referring to your bodies having names, you know, like Barb or Jack or Lloyd or Betty, but more of something else that we all have in common. All of us do. It's our minds, our carnal thinking, and the synapses that connect the desires of our flesh to our brain. We all have that in common, okay? And it has a name as well, if you so choose, okay, to use it. First, let me digress in order to explain my point, okay? Being a Satan isn't fun, folks. Take poor Peter for an example. Jesus called him a stumbling block, which defines a Satan, okay? So, what did Peter do or say to become a stumbling block, a Satan? Well, the answer is he didn't want Jesus to go through with his plans to fulfill the will of God, all right? His adversarial idea, okay, that he had using carnal thinking and his brain, the adversarial idea not only appeased Peter's flesh, he liked Jesus, okay? Put yourself in his shoes, okay? Not only did it appease his flesh, his understanding, his carnal mind, but Peter offered Jesus a way to appease the flesh of Jesus himself, all right? In other words, not to die. What died on the cross anyway, folks? The flesh of Jesus is what died. See about the appeasing of the flesh? All right, stay with me. Think about this. If the man Jesus hadn't conquered his flesh in his wilderness experience at the beginning of his ministry, then when it came to its end, which is what took place here when, you know, Peter approached him, when it came to its end, Peter's suggestion might have had an appeal because it would have just been another temptation to Jesus. Put your feet in Jesus' sandals just for a moment. What healthy young man would want to die? Jesus was no different in this regard, folks. That's why Peter was called a stumbling block in the same verse, okay? Now here it is out of the definition, which I'm not trying to drag a dead horse in the mud. I've done so many videos about the word Satan. I realize that, and it's coming close to an end. Actually, it never will, as long as people ignorantly keep making it into a name of a single individual entity. But stay with me. Satan, according to much of Jewish literature, such as the Jewish Encyclopedia, the Hebrew word ha-satan, which means the Satan in Hebrew, quote, represents an adversarial thought process, okay, to appease the flesh. And once it's acted upon, it then becomes a sin, close quote. Folks, this makes complete sense to me, considering everything we do that's not directed by the Spirit of God is going to be guided by our flesh. Okay? Where am I wrong? In this regard, every temptation that Jesus went through in the wilderness experience, in his wilderness experience, was about appeasing his flesh. Reread it. You'll see, just as the writers of the Hebrew literatures proclaim. His flesh, his ha-satan, his Satan tempted him in the wilderness. This is why it's written that Satan tempted Jesus in the wilderness. It's as simple as that. Satan with a small s, not Satan with a capital S, as in referring to a name of something, or someone, I should say. It is definitely something, but not someone. Unless you want to consider, never mind. Paul backs this notion up in Romans 7:17 through 19. Quote, so now, no longer am I the one doing it, but sin which dwells in me, for I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. For the willing is present in me, but doing of the good is not. For the good that I want, I do not do, but I practice the very evil that I do not want. Close quote. In this context, Paul Sin and flesh, in this context of what Paul wrote, they're synonymous. Sin and flesh is synonymous. It's all about the flesh, folks. Satan, the word Satan, small s, is not the name of a spiritual boogeyman. It's so simple and reasonable to understand, but only if people would put aside, just for a moment, what they've been taught, as in, this testing that we all go through, and the challenges, and sometimes the sin that we all face in this life is not about who is doing the tempting, but rather what is doing the tempting. So I suppose one could say that Satan is another name for the flesh, even though technically in the Hebrew culture, where that word originated, which is very important, okay, it's more of a description and not a name. So in closing this video, if my Christian friends insist on making the word Satan out to be a name, then at least refer to it as a maiden name. Just a suggestion, that you went by before getting married to Christ, symbolically, so to speak, okay? And let's not forget the ring, ladies. And that ring that you wear is a reminder that you're no longer adversarial, no longer a Satan, no longer Hasatan to the will of God. See, I'd be willing to run with that. Since there's no maiden name for guys, though, I guess we're just out of luck, fellas. Sorry about that. But wait, in Christ, there is no male or female. So, never mind. Look me up on Facebook under a group called the Y Guy Group. It's a private group. Also, I have an avatar name of John Anthony Jones. I meant to type Jonathan, but it came out John Anthony. So, anyhow, that's public. You can look me up there. Check me out. Also, I'm going to leave a link to my 3 books that I've written. An Amazon link. Check it out on the Show Me More section of this video. Consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already. And give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay, and if you are going to leave any kind of a comment, please be polite about it. I'm not asking for agreement. I'm just asking for politeness. Okay? So, did I cover everything? Did I do all the commercial stuff? Well, thank you for viewing.